So a little bit of backstory. So like they had originally planned on doing a sequel to Gladiator as early as 2001. Like this was discussed. Like,
oh, wow.
as soon after the first one came out, they talked about doing a sequel right away. And if you didn't know that, so you probably haven't heard some of the crazy ass story ideas that they had for a Gladiator 2. There was ideas where it would tell Lucius's story, but Maximus would be a part of it. And it would like also tell a parallel tale about him in the afterlife. And then there was ideas too where Maximus would be a ghost in the sequel, and it would actually follow his story as it goes. Those pipes. Anyway, welcome back to the Movie Dads podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Howie.
Kyle.
That is Kyle. Kyle, we're back for episode number 67. Movie Dads podcast. Big premiere movie of the week. The highly, highly anticipated Gladiator 2. Boy, awesome. What a movie. What a movie. Or half of Glicked, if you will.
Yeah, Glicked. Oh, I love that. That sticks. That's sticking.
I really wish they would have gone with Wickediator, but that's just me.
Wickediator.
It's a mouthful.
Actually, it's a good one too.
But yeah, Glicked works. But hey, if you're watching this on YouTube, please click the like and subscribe. Make sure you click the bell to get notifications on when new episodes come out, which is on Wednesdays. If you're not watching us on YouTube, you can find us also on many podcast networks such as Spotify, Apple, Audible, iHeartRadio, among many others. You can also see some of our short clips and videos on social media at Movie Dads Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. But we're Movie Dads. We've got movie kids. Kyle, I've talked about how awful Dez's basketball team is for the last several weeks.
They finally get one in.
They got one in.
Let's go.
Boy, they showed up and they played as a team, and they were like defensive juggernauts. They only allowed 10 points from the other team. And they ended up winning. It was great, man. It was awesome. So the coach's kid is probably the best scorer on the team, right?
Nice.
And so my kid's usually a ball hog's taking a bunch of shots and stuff. And that's why he's scored more points than anybody up until this point. But Dez was doing a really good job. He was playing point. So he was bringing the ball down the court, right? Every time, like if it'd go out of bounds or if the other team scored a basket, he's bringing it down the court. And he was finding the coach's kid on the right wing every single time, and this kid was just dropping dimes. So Dez was just bringing it up, finding this kid open, and he was like, but it was in the same spot every time. It was like, he's over there again. They're over the ball, pass him the ball. He's over there again. So it was great, though. It was really cool to see him win. So that was awesome. We're going to try and see Wicked sometime in the next couple days. The kids and I are with Abby, with my wife. We were going to go tomorrow, like after I got off work. Obviously, they're out of school. My wife's not working because she works for the school. But we looked at all the show times for like after 4:00. Is nothing.
That's crazy.
Zero. Unless you want to sit in the front row, there's nothing. So everything is booked up, if you will. And I looked at the AMC. I looked at the B&B. I looked at the AX, whatever that is out here. Whew, it's not happening, so we might not get to see it till this weekend. So, but
hear me out.
Yeah,
I know that Wicked. It's like there's like an awakening in people when they see it, that they cling on to the show. I'm not talking about the movie,
right? Just
the show itself. For me, like I don't think it's as good as like Hamilton or like. It's not Lion King. It's not Hamilton. It's not, I don't know. I get that there's people freaking are losing their minds about it. It's not my favorite Broadway show.
Well, that's okay. Listen, we're two dudes and we're going to sit here and talk about Broadway shows for a second. But like when I saw Wicked on stage for the first time, I'm a big fan of like stories set in existing universes that are original. Big fan of that. I love that kind of stuff.
All right. Love that.
I like original backstories. We were texting about Hook the other day. Right? Like Hook is a perfect example of an awesome idea and story that maybe didn't have 100% the best execution, but still turned out pretty great. I think Wicked's like that. Like it's a cool story. It's an awesome idea. You gave the Wicked Witch of the West like a story,
anti-hero story. Yeah.
So it's I always kind of dug it for that, and I think people relate a lot because of that, because they're all witches at heart. So that's it.
Well, I like when these movies do well at the box office because it means we can inevitably get more. So I am happy that it's doing well for that reason. So
did you see the thing that they were like theaters were kicking people out because they were singing along to songs?
Okay, so that my wife was talking with me about it. She was like, I don't want to go see it in this first round. Because and I've seen a lot of people posting about this same thing too, but she was like, I want to go see it after it's been out for a couple of weeks, because like I don't want to sit in theater and just listen to all these freaking people sing these songs. Like I want to just watch the movie and enjoy the movie, not like everyone who wants everyone to know they've seen the show sing or relive their high school or college drama dreams. So but I didn't see it. People were getting kicked out because of that. Yeah, but I have heard that people are complaining about that.
So. Like The Rock even like said something about it on social media. He's like, "Let them sing," you know.
He's trying to put a little bug in people's ears for his sing-along movies that are coming out. So
yeah, exactly.
Nice. Cool. Love that for you guys. For us, sports related, one soccer game or one athletic game of the week is indoor soccer for Parker. He was like all about it today or this past week, was running around. He's very hit and miss. Sometimes he'll like not want to be there at all. And it's like, he like won't even want to get out of the car. It's like the most painful thing ever. And then other times he'll run around. He decided on Sunday that he was going to fall at the end of every time he sprinted somewhere. So literally like he would run after the ball and he would kick it and then he would fall on purpose, and just did it the whole day. So Steph and I were like the whole time like, stop falling down, Parker, get up. He did score a goal, which was great.
Oh, that's great.
He played goalie, and again, I don't know where the kid gets the goalie thing. Like it's just in his DNA or something. Like the way he is in the goal, like I said last time, he keeps his hand back so he like knows where the pole is, and he's shadowing where the ball and the group are going. Like he does a good job of it. So obviously soccer is not my favorite sport in terms of what I want them to play, but if that's what they enjoy, that's what they enjoy. Now keep in mind my brother-in-law played college soccer, and like their whole family were soccer people growing up. So there's a little bit of push from that side of the family to get him to go do this. So I keep telling him just to let him play football every season, no matter what, just football only, which is not going to happen.
If it's in his blood to like play goalie, maybe he'll be a good safety.
Yeah.
He's going to be good.
Get his hands right for catching.
Yeah.
I played 1 year of soccer in my lifetime, and it was about Parker's age. So, and I played some goalie. Not saying that that's where he's getting it from. That's not what I'm saying. But I liked goalie because you could use your hands. And I wanted to catch the ball.
Yeah, so makes sense.
Turned into receiver. So, but yeah, soccer was fun. Some kid so they yell at these kids all the time. They don't yell at these kids, but they're constantly telling them not to just like power kick the shit out of it. Like, they're telling them to keep the ball on the ground. Like it's a very small indoor arena. And there's one kid on the other team who just unleashes all of his athletic being into kicking the ball. And so like, it'll be normal ball kicks going, and then out of nowhere, this fucking like rocket will hit the ceiling. And this kid did it again and smoked a kid in his face, and it literally like broke the kid's glasses. So it was like,
oh damn.
He ended up being fine, so it was funny after, but at the time it was like, whoa, come on,
what's going on?
So, these kids are rough. So but yeah, soccer, we obviously it's a certain time of year in this household, so little bat Santa has arrived. And then getting ready for Thanksgiving. So it's been pretty low key. My wife got a new job that she'll be starting. So like that's been kind of the news in the house the last couple of days. So
That's exciting. Absolutely.
yeah. So busy time in terms of real world stuff.
I got one other thing I forgot to mention too. So our whole weekend was tied up. Was my daughter had musical, which I'd mentioned last week that she had.
Oh yeah.
Elf the musical at the high school this weekend. They did great. Kids did great. So it's like they have two main casts, right? They do 2 shows Saturday, 2 and 6. They do 2 shows Sunday, 2 and 6. So the main characters like Buddy the Elf and the dad Walter and Jovi, like those characters, they have different people. They have 2 different casts, right? So they do 1 show on Saturday, 1 show on Sunday. Now my daughter was like second tier speaking part. So she was actually in all 4 shows. She played the same character in all 4 shows.
Oh,
nice. Which was cool. So she had to do all 4. They did great, but there was clearly, thank goodness, like nobody that I know listens to this, but there was clearly A team and B team. Like it was
a difference.
It was evident, right? Which is the one thing I will say is like our neighbors had some children, right, that were in it that had big roles, and they were the A team. So that was nice. Good. They were the A team for sure.
Love that.
But I got to tell this story, and my daughter, if she hears this, will probably be mortified that I tell this because she was so embarrassed when it happened. But they had dress rehearsal Friday night. So she plays one of the cops in the show. She's like a security guard / police officer. She plays like both roles. But she's also in the ensemble at the end, like in all the New York stuff. So she's got to like switch out of her police uniform and then dress like a New Yorker in Central Park, right? So she's got like a stocking hat and a coat she wears. But she had got done with her police officer scene, had to go to the back and had to do her wardrobe change. Something happened. Something got stuck. It took her too long. She didn't make it out on stage in time for the next scene. This is dress rehearsal, right? This isn't during the performance.
Okay. I was like, that's like every freaking performer's like nightmare dream where they're like, I can't find, or a football player, like, I can't find my cleats in this dream and I can't find them. And then the show goes on without you. Mortifying. She was probably
her mic was on and she's like, oh shit. And it went throughout the whole auditorium. So then she gets out there and she realizes what had happened. And the teacher stops the whole thing and is like, now we have to be careful about the words we're using. And she's in front of everybody. So my daughter's like mortified. So of course she comes home. She's worried she's in trouble. And I'm like, no, you could have said something way worse, Then
that's
shit.
An awesome story.
Yeah, it's a great story. I'm like, why are you mortified? That's hilarious.
And what she will probably end up remembering the most about this musical that she did is that in 10 years when she's talking about it, is this funny ass.
Remember Elf the musical? Oh yeah, the one where I said "oh shit" at the dress rehearsal. Yeah, that one. Yeah.
When she gets older, she'll start to regret that it wasn't during one of the actual shows because it would have been even more funny.
It would have been hilarious. Yeah, exactly. So, it would have been hilarious. But anyway, that's it. That's it. Go ahead.
Love that. Well, I don't have anything else in terms of the normal life stuff. So let's get into my most excited segment of the pod, our 6 to midnight. The section of the podcast where we talk about the things that get us up in the morning. What we're nerding out about this week, movie news, casting news, new trailers, those types of things, video games, comic books. I know you've got kind of a list for yourself. I've got kind of a shorter one today, but not a lot going on in terms of like trailers or movie news that I'm nerding out about. But I have been like deep diving into some Star Wars. There's a book that I have air quotes been reading. When I say reading, listening on audio. It's called Star Wars Darth Maul Shadow Hunter. And this book, I was trying to find something to read. It was like, okay, maybe something Star Wars. I need to get something. And I saw that there was Darth Maul. So I'm like, oh, I fucking love Darth Maul. You guys know I'm obsessed with him. I got his lightsaber up there. I got him right there. He's got his own poster. I love him. So I see this. I'm like, is that going to be interesting? Like, I love Darth Maul, but I'm not a big fan of like his story in like the Clone Wars stuff, like how they brought him back. He didn't seem like he did in episode 1, where he was like this quiet riot, like terrifying badass. And this book basically is set pre episode 1. And so that kind of got me intrigued. And then when I looked at this, like ratings and comments from people, someone had put a comment that was like, this book is like, it's like Star Wars and like Terminator. And so for whatever reason, I was like, wait, what? Tell me more. And basically he is exactly like that. This book is set in Coruscant. So it's actually gets kind of the vibe of the movie, The Clone Wars in episode 2, where Anakin's like chasing down that changer. It's set kind of in that, but even kind of deeper in Coruscant, very seedy. It's just, there was a game that was being made back in 2011 called 1313 that was basically set in this dark, seedy part of Coruscant where all like the crime and those types of things are going on. And so the book, basically, someone had said this book is like 1313 in Terminator. So, and it is. Darth Maul is like an unstoppable force. He's tracking down, not that anyone's going to read it or listen to it, but he's tracking down a highly important character or person, and like basically kind of detectiving, finding them in Coruscant. And there's a character who's very Han Solo that's in it. There's a Padawan who basically she has reached the point that she's about to become a Jedi. And that this is her like final test, just to basically go and escort someone from this lower part of Coruscant back to the temple. And obviously shenanigans ensue, but it gives you that vibe of like that Darth Maul from episode 1, where he's just a badass. Like at one point he walks in a room right in the middle of like a shady dealing between bad guys, ruffians, and he just like under his breath says like none shall survive, and then he just like fucking takes everybody out. And they go into detail with it, so like it just feels like Darth Maul in episode 1 where he was beating the shit out of Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. Anyways, Star Wars Darth Maul Shadow Hunter. It's by Michael Reeves. It is available on audio. Nice. Go read it. And then I'll just jump over to you because I know we got a couple things. So I'll let you take the next one.
I had a couple things listed, but one thing that I texted you about this earlier, but it kind of broke today, is we have a almost entire cast list now for the Voltron movie that Amazon MGM is making, right? So we had talked a little bit a few weeks ago about how Henry Cavill had signed on for an undisclosed role in Voltron. So then a couple days ago, it was announced that Sterling K. Brown had joined the cast, which, if you don't know Sterling K. Brown, he is an awesome actor, does a lot of great work. Also, just does a lot of great voice work, too. He's on last season of Invincible. One thing that they also announced was the actress / singer Rita Ora is going to be in the cast. And then they announced 5 very young actors, Alba Batista, John Kim, Daniel Quintove, Samson Kao, and I'm going to butcher this one, Tharanya Tharan, have joined the cast. I would assume it's safe to say, because they're all young, they're probably going to be the pilots for Voltron, which then makes you wonder, right? Who's Henry? Who are Sterling K. Brown playing, right? Because you would assume they're not playing father and son. For obvious reasons. But so then that makes me think one of them's probably good and one of them's probably bad, right?
Yep.
And it makes you wonder. So like, let's go ahead and assume that Henry Cavill's the bad guy, in this case, which it could, like I said, it could be either one. Then is he
I-
Lothor or is he
That's
Zargon?
all I was thinking. That was what I was thinking
I
too.
did too.
He's
But I
gotta be the
guess
bad guy.
he could be like the mentor that like teaches him and stuff too. But I think that would probably be Sterling K. Brown's role. I don't know, but I'm going out on a limb here. So is Henry Cavill, is he Lothor or is he Zargon? Which then means like if he's Lothor, then they haven't cast Zargon, who's his father yet, is my guess. Or they're not going to cast one of them. I don't know. Anyway, it's interesting. But I think it's cool, and it looks like a good cast because it looks like people that you can almost, like if you watched the Netflix show Legendary Defender, right? Like you can almost see this cast and see their pictures and say like, okay, that's who's playing who, that's who's playing this person. And so I think that's good. That means it's good casting, right? So I'm kind of excited about that. So it was cool to see that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love that. Love me some.
So that was what I had next. Yeah. I hope he's the bad guy, but it's hard to say. Did you want to go next or did you want me to keep going?
I'll jump in. Because I don't have really much. The other thing that it was announced like right after we stopped recording last week is for my Batman news of the week, Batman Unburied, the audio series that I talked about like early on when we first started the pod. Originally was voiced by Winston Duke as Batman in the first season. Not sure why he's not Batman in the second one, but Coleman Domingo has been tapped to be Batman, and it just released today. So, which originally they had talked about maybe it being in 2025. So it was like, oh, we've got an awesome new Batman thing to dive into. It's on Spotify. The whole thing is on Spotify. It's not like a normal audiobook where there's like one narrator reading. Every character is a casted actor. There is like score and music and sound effects. So it's really, really good. The first one's really, really good. It's that detective, dark, like gritty Batman that I love, the one that's like detective trying to peel back the layers of an onion. And but that dropped today, so it's called Batman Unburied Fallen City. There's 8 episodes. It's on Spotify. I haven't started it, but I'm going to start right when we get off the pod tonight. So nice.
Yeah, if it's anything as good as the Winston Duke season, that was tremendous. So that would be great.
Yeah.
The next thing I just wanted to talk about is we got the second part of the 3 parts of the Cobra Kai final season. Had just premiered on Netflix, I think last weekend. I finally got to watch all of it. Really good. Like if you were a fan of growing up with like the Karate Kid movies, this is a really cool show if you've watched it. If you haven't watched it, highly, highly recommend it. It's super fun. Like, listen, this thing isn't winning any drama awards. It's super cheesy, but it's cheesy like an 80s movie should be. So it's cool that it's a continuation of that. And then Ralph Macchio was doing an interview just recently, I think within the last few days, and somebody had asked him like, Karate Kid Legends is coming out next year with him and Jackie Chan, right? And somebody had asked him like, is that part of this? How does that work? He goes, no, that's going to take place like 3 years after the events of Cobra Kai. So I thought that was interesting. So there's going to be a bit of a time jump in between this ends and that starts. So the last part is coming.
There's a whole Karate Kid we've got here.
I know, right? Who would have thought after like 20, 30 years of nothing, all of a sudden it's a hot ticket now. So, but the third and final part of the final season set to come out in 2025. I've heard it's February. I haven't seen any definitive dates yet, but that's what it sounds like. The final parts of Cobra Kai, the final season, will come out. So
nice, love that.
Yeah,
that's on Netflix, right?
Yep,
it was originally a YouTube series that got picked up.
It was a YouTube Red series, and then Netflix picked it up after it got canceled off of that. They picked it up. I think it was 2 seasons on YouTube, and then Netflix picked it up season 3 on. So.
Yeah, I know it's pretty popular, so love that.
It's really good.
The only other thing I was going to talk about, just because I'm like, all right, well, what am I nerding out about this week? Is I finally, and I know everyone hates when I talk Batman, but I fucking love Batman. I just finished. I didn't realize it was the end of this comic series. I think maybe I've mentioned it on the pod in like a 6 Midnight of the Past, but basically one of my favorite Elseworlds stories of Batman is Gotham by Gaslight. It's basically Batman set back in the Victorian age. And it's essentially Batman like if Jack the Ripper was in Gotham. And it's a super cool story. One of the writers actually they convinced DC to do like a new like addition to that world, but it's called Batman Gotham by Gaslight: The Kryptonian Age. There are 6 issues, but basically Batman he's very like steampunk, like it's, I mean, it's in the name, Gotham by Gaslight gives you a little bit of vibe of like the time frame.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that like, so I finished the all 6 issues. Originally it was described as being 12 issues. Well, at the end of this, basically there was not as much Batman in it as I thought, and there was a ton of other characters like heroes kind of being introduced in this world, and obviously they're not like they are in the modern time. So like Superman is in it, but Superman is basically like a sheriff of a small cowboy town, and he's like dressed like a cowboy. And it turns out this whole book is essentially like a pre-Justice League story, and then the next 6 issues will come out in 2025. But I will say the way they've introduced these characters in this time frame, all of them are very unique and kind of cool. Like Cyborg is introduced. Basically, Lex Luthor is kind of like who's the Russian electrician, guy with electricity that's was in the race with gosh, who am I trying to think of? The
Tesla?
Famous Tesla. God, Kyle. It's only when I want to think of something that I can't. It's on the tip of my tongue. Yeah, so Lex Luthor is very like Tesla kind of character.
David Bowie?
No. And he pretty much like he creates Cyborg in like a weird like steampunk machine kind of way. So anyways, just kind of mention one example, but the end of the book basically explains that there's going to be a Justice League story, basically Gotham by Gaslight, like the Justice Society or Justice Empire or something. Starts next week, but that's what I'm reading today. I just finished it. I'm like excited, but I was also kind of let down by it. So, but yeah, anyways, that's the last thing that I'm nerding out about this week.
Great.
What else did you have on your list?
By the way, when I said David Bowie, he played Nikola Tesla in The Prestige. If you forgot, that's why
I totally forgot that's who he played. So
yeah. Anyway,
what a random casting that was, which we've talked about actually previously.
Yeah, it was weird. It was weird.
Where did that come from?
I remember the first time I saw that movie, and I was like, "Is that Bowie? What?"
It's
weird.
I think they cast him because you're like, who would just be a total weird shock?
Yeah, it's actually probably. I see what you did there. That's probably actually the straightest character he's ever played, though. Not
this is true.
Not straight, but like a normie.
Normie.
Anyway, and then the last thing I just wanted to talk about, because I thought this was interesting, and you and I talk about this stuff all the time. When Deadpool and Wolverine came out, we showed off our popcorn buckets and like how much we were excited we were for our popcorn buckets. Listen, this popcorn bucket thing is out of control. It's out of control,
I'm
people.
Here for it.
So we've got the new Nosferatu's coming out. The Robert Eggers Nosferatu's coming out on Christmas, right? So they announced today, I think it was Regal Cinemas is going to have like a sarcophagus, like coffin tin that opens up. Listen, it looks super cool, but the one that I think everybody's like, what the hell's going on? is AMC is showing they're going to do for the new animated Lord of the Rings movie. They're doing a 27-inch long Warhammer popcorn bucket. This thing essentially has this giant handle that comes off of this Warhammer popcorn bucket. Somebody was like, what if I'm sitting there and I get excited and then I turn it too fast and it hits the guy sitting next to me in the eyeball or something? Like, what,
what
are
if
you supposed to
everybody in
do?
the same row has it? What if every person is sitting next to each other with this giant fucking axe hammer?
Yeah. I mean, you've got that Batman light one, which is cool as shit. Like, I don't know what's going on with these popcorn buckets, man, but I mean, it's weird.
I'm here for it.
Thought? I know.
I'm so disappointed that we didn't have any. There was so many cool Gladiator ones out there, and it's like none of the theaters by us had any of them. So
no,
I was so bummed about that.
Yeah.
But
when I went and saw Venom last week, when I saw the third Venom movie, I got just a regular plastic bucket that said Venom on it, which is fine. Listen, it's fine. It's not like it's not Venom's head opens up and you're pulling popcorn out of his mouth, even though it's a great idea. Should have marketed that.
I'm pretty sure there are some popcorn buckets that came out that were like that.
There probably is.
Which for you, I feel like as a Venom guy, you gotta have.
But I think you and I both agreed we're gonna get the Warhammer for sure.
Oh, 100%.
100%.
That hammer is being bought.
Stupidly.
Yes.
You're gonna fill the hammer. Fill the hammer in with rocks.
Oh my god. that comes out this year, which
that's in like 2 weeks.
In theaters. Yeah. So I'm actually excited about that. McFarlane paired up with them to basically have an entire Helm's Deep castle like play set. I think it's all cardboard. It was like $35, but it's massive and it looks exactly like Helm's Deep. When they like announced it, I was like feeling itchy, so I just immediately jumped on it. So it'll be here before Christmas, so I think we're gonna set it up as like one of the Christmas gifts for the boys when they come downstairs. Just Helm's Deep.
Man. I love it. Anyway, so get your absurdly overpriced and ridiculously shaped popcorn buckets. Every movie should have one. But anyway, that takes us into our big premiere movie of the week, the 2024 epic historical action film sequel, Gladiator II. Now, just as we do with any other big premiere movie of the week for a movie that comes out new in theaters, we're going to go ahead and talk about just like our thoughts, whether you should see it in theaters and whatnot, and then we'll give you the spoiler warning, send you on your way, and then we'll talk about some of the spoiler parts and the other details of the movie. Gladiator II was directed by Ridley Scott, written by David Scarpa, based on a story by Peter Craig and Scarpa. Cast includes Paul Mescal as Lucius, Pedro Pascal as General Acacius, Connie Nielsen as Lucilla, Denzel Washington as Macrinus, Joseph Quinn as Emperor Geta, and Fred Heikinger as Emperor Caracalla. Now, this movie is expected, was originally planned to have a $210 to $250 million budget, which it was believed to have ballooned to over $300 million. That's an expensive R-rated film, Kyle. That's a lot of money. But
there's a lot of money.
It has already made over $220 million so far, most of which is international. Actually, it was a big hit internationally. So even though it just came out this weekend, I think it did $65 million. Obviously, Wicked was huge this weekend. I think made like 115. The good thing is they came out the weekend before Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving's a huge week for people to see movies in theaters. I already talked about it's impossible to get tickets to Wicked in the next couple of days. But this is a movie that shouldn't drop off too far over the next 6-7 days, I would imagine, because it's doing so well internationally already. By the end of next weekend, it will have probably made its money back. So that'll be good.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah. So there's a lot, but what a movie. We did get to see this together. We went to a late night, Friday night, opening night kind of showing. We didn't get to go Thursday, but we went Friday night. Man, it was really it was what I wanted it to be. Like, it was a continuation of the original story, and it went the direction that I really wanted it to go. I was overall very happy with the film. I thought the cast was just ridiculously good. And obviously the gladiator scenes in the Coliseum were tremendous. What were your initial thoughts?
I've kind of like you said, this movie was everything that I wanted it to be. Like when they first announced that they were doing a Gladiator 2, there was like a what? How are they going to do that? And this movie did a great job of plugging in from the previous movie and doing all the things that I loved from that movie. Like you said, the gladiator battles were freaking sick. The actors in this movie were just crazy good. Denzel just freaking chewed up every single scene that he was in. It was
That's
so
what that guy
good.
does. He makes it effortless, though. He's such
And
a
you
good
could
freaking
tell,
actor.
yeah, you could tell that it was almost that he was like, I'm going to do that movie because I will get the chance to do that. And I'm just going to cut loose and be crazy and in like the best of ways. So I really enjoyed it. I know there's a ton of people that like, I feel like there's a lot of people that are on the fence about how they feel about this movie. I loved it. And I liked the ways that they leaned with some of the story and connections between characters.
Yep.
That I had some people that texted me that was like, "What did you think of it?" And I was like, "It was fucking amazing." And they were like, "Really?" I didn't get that same vibe. So like, it's interesting how how this movie clicks for some and not for others, if that makes sense. Did you see any of people like with not good reviews or just kind of like, eh?
No, I mean, I saw some people that were like, yeah, it's, this is the scenes are epic, and, but it's not the first movie, and, things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But, I mean, I'll be real honest, and, I rewatched the first one right before we went and saw this. So I rewatched it last week, and it kind of led me in a direction that I thought this movie was going to go after rewatching. Because it's weird when you rewatch the first one, knowing now that there's a story where Lucius has grown up and he's actually Maximus's son. So it kind of makes you watch the first one a little. You watch it a little different, right? And
Yeah.
it was evident that like he didn't know he had a son. And, there was a lot of people when that trailer came out that, they showed that it was actually Maximus's son. They were like, yeah, but Maximus was such a like, so devoted to his wife and his son.
Yeah.
Right. Why was he stepping out? And then you kind of, maybe he wasn't, right? Because it's clear when you rewatch the first one that him and Lucilla had a relationship previously, but you don't know if it was before he was married, right? Because it very much feels like it was before he was married. So
Yeah,
if they broke up and she got pregnant and she was married, I mean, maybe he was kind of, maybe she was cheating on her husband with Maximus, but
yeah,
I don't think he was stepping out on his wife is what I'm getting at. I don't think he was, but
and Lucius and the kid from Gladiator 1 was older than Maximus's son, so like that would line up with that if that were the case. I also think like historically though, I think in that time period, like in Rome, like that was normal. Like these husbands are going away for 10 years on these campaigns and
right,
like generals and higher ups, like that's very loose with like who they're, I don't know. I mean, I feel like historically that's probably not a big deal to them.
I want to say there was even a line that talked about how her previous marriage was a marriage of convenience. Like it was about joining houses kind of deal. And that maybe her husband wasn't even into women.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think there's a passing line that comes real quick that talks about that. So maybe they said all that so they could soften the blow, right? But
yeah.
I don't want to delve too much into that, but that's the way I felt on that whole thing.
I don't think this movie did anything. Let's face it. For most of us, Gladiator 1 was amazing because of freaking Maximus Decimus Meridius. He's just like the most badass character in almost any movie. And so I was hoping in this movie they would like lean into that, or like not just go in a totally different direction where we don't even recognize Maximus. So I liked that how they kind of put him up on a bit of a pedestal in this movie.
Yeah. No, you're right.
And leaned into that. So,
and then I felt like Lucius like very much carried on that legacy. In the movie too. So I thought that was.
It's almost like he was one, he didn't know that was his dad, and then obviously he finds out, and it like it's almost like something clicks for him.
Yes.
A lot of other things make sense, and now I'm going to essentially like claim my birthright kind of vibe. So I don't know. Yeah. I know we're jumping way towards the end, but I liked it. Go see it. It is a movie theater movie. Yes. This is a movie that was made to be seen in theaters. Do not wait.
Yeah. Try to see it on a big screen, biggest screen possible. Like Wicked's probably taking up half the IMAXs, so try and get into one if you can.
Yeah. Oh, it's so interesting to me, like that the timing of release was done like that. Same with Oppenheimer. It was like, where was the
huge movies opening on the same weekend? But I mean, they are geared to totally different audiences. There's not a ton of people that are, streamlined into seeing both. But at the same time, like your wife very much wants to see both. She wanted to go see Gladiator.
Yeah, she wanted to go.
I want to see both. Deep down, I know you do too, Kyle. Don't lie.
I mean, I want to see it. I love me a good musical, 1 and 2. Absolutely. Obviously, my wife wanted to see Gladiator. It's Pedro Pascal and Paul Mescal with their shirts off. Like, hello. That's not why she said she wanted to see, but obviously, there's a lot of people that are going to this movie because of that. So
that's what the internet's for. Anyway, spoiler warning. Spoiler warning.
Get out.
Get out. All right. Oof. Man, I tell you what, like, from the get-go, this movie was just rocking, right? Just from the beginning. Like, it opens in North Africa. Lucius is there. He's got a wife. He's part of this community now. And you don't know, like, the story of how he got there. They don't explain that yet, but he's there. And guess what? The Romans are coming. They're coming to lay siege to this city, country, whatever. And it's clear that Lucius is like a general or something, and he's leading them into battle. And long story short, the Romans are coming on ships. It opens with this huge epic, catapults, fire arrows, everything you'd expect, right? And his wife, who's an archer, gets shot and killed, right? And it's basically like General Acacius is the one who orders the shoot her, because she's shooting it. Yeah, she's shooting out. She's taking men out. Shoot her. And he sees this whole thing. Lucius sees all this, and she falls over the wall into the water. He ends up getting knocked into the water too. He's unconscious. It's very much a vibe of the first Gladiator. He has this like scene of her in the afterlife. Like, it looks like she's getting on a boat to cross the river Styx to the underworld. Like, that's exactly the vibe you get. And he's like yelling for her. And then he wakes up, finds her body, takes the tail of the arrow, breaks it off that kills her. And then he gets captured by the Romans, right? And he's sold into slavery because that's what they did with the people they captured. They sold him into slavery. So they take him. He's put in front of all these people to be basically tested to see if he can fight, right? And jump in here whenever you want to if there's anything you want to add, but
it very, very much mirrors the first movie, but like not So I think there's a way that you could see like that you could go about this and kind of like just copying the first movie, or kind of hat tipping and like giving a nod to it. I liked that it felt like father was going down the same path as his son, because we knew that he was his son from the trailer. So but I liked I don't I liked the battle at the beginning. I do like that they did kind of the like underworld realm or whatever, like that, like because like multiple times in the movie he's kind of like close to death or in a dream, like goes into basically that realm. And I like that they did that. I think there's something just in terms of like a movie trope that kind of works. It builds a lot. I wish that they would have done a little bit more with like maybe Maximus being a part of that, or maybe him seeing Maximus down there. But I know some other people thought maybe that would have been too much. But I like, he basically sees his wife get on this boat and he would like to go with her, but he can't. And then they kind of comment about throughout the movie, like, who's on the other side of the river waiting for you? Like, is there anybody waiting for you? And
well, there was a lot of, so a little bit of backstory. So like they had originally planned on doing a sequel to Gladiator as early as 2001. Like this was discussed. Like,
oh, wow.
As soon after the first one came out, they talked about doing a sequel right away. And if you ever, I mean, if you didn't know that, so you probably haven't heard some of the crazy ass story ideas that they had for a Gladiator 2. There was ideas where it would tell Lucius's story, but Maximus would be a part of it. And it would like also tell a parallel tale about him in the afterlife. And then there was ideas too where Maximus would be a ghost in the sequel, and it would actually follow his story as a ghost. And then I actually wrote this one down because this is batshit crazy. But at one point, Nick Cave, the singer, Nick Cave was hired to write a script for a sequel to Gladiator, and he wrote a story where Maximus is actually cursed to live forever and fights in wars across time, like World War II, Vietnam, and it takes him to modern day, and he actually works at the Pentagon. What? Yes, this is true. God. It's a true story. So actually, Ridley Scott,
nobody greenlit that.
Ridley Scott sent the script to Steven Spielberg to read, is the story. And Spielberg read it and sent it back and said, "This would never work. Do not make this movie."
Thank God.
Like, I guess there was chances it was going to be a ghost story. There really were.
Ridley Scott is sending that script to someone to be like, "Huh?
Yeah, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? Sounds like sounds fucking nuts, Ridley. I don't think it's a good idea.
Fucking nut job.
Yeah,
don't do it. Well, I guess that is interesting. One, I'm not surprised because the movie was so good when it originally came out that obviously the studio should have been kicking around the idea of doing a sequel. And by the time we got to our timeline now, it was like, you're doing a sequel to Gladiator? That was an old movie. How's that going to make sense? And then Russell Crowe was in a bunch of just interviews doing his normal media stuff that he does, and has been asked multiple times of like, are you going to be in it? Like, are you going to be in a cameo or an end credit scene? And he basically was like, it was like a nice way of him saying like, no, he's dead. How would I be in the movie? He was like, I'm not mad at them for not calling me. Nobody called me for the movie. My character was dead.
Even if you wanted Russell Crowe in like an afterlife or like standing next to the river, it doesn't work because he's old now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
like you'd automatically have to de-age him, and you'd have to shed 75 pounds off the guy.
He's kind of like he's much bigger than he was back then.
Yeah, and I'm not talking shit on Russell Crowe, obviously, but it's like you can't it's not that easy to
Yeah.
do that from a movie that's like 24 freaking years old. Like it's too
Yeah.
hard to do.
Yeah. Well, and it
And
kind of
it's got to
worked in
make
the
sense. It
movie
doesn't make sense.
for sure. But it also worked for the movie because though he wasn't in the movie, you felt his presence in almost like everything, which I
Well, there's
liked.
flashbacks in it. That there's actual
Yeah.
flashbacks in the movie.
Oh yeah, good point. So like he's
footage from
technically in
him. Yeah, he's in it. I thought they did a good job of using flashbacks that way.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really well. Anyway, back to the story. So he's put into a small arena with some of the other captured ones. One of them, which is like the leader of the tribe, right? What was his name? Was like Jubata or something like that.
It was Jubarda or something.
Right, Jubarda. And so he's like, stay close to me. And they open this door and all these like giant freaking baboons come out, like these giant teethed, crazy ass baboons. And there's one baboon that like has no hair on it. That's like appears to be like the leader of the baboons. Right. And they're like jumping and ripping guys' throats out and stuff. And Jubarda gets his ripped out. He's already had like a broken arm. He was kind of maimed as it was.
It's actually, so it's we were close. It's Jubartha.
Jubartha. Well, the H could be silent. Could be Jubartha.
And the reason why we talked about this is because the actor like looks kind of like the same actor that played Maximus's good friend in the first movies, whose name is Juba. Very particular spelling. And so after when I went and looked it up, I was texting you late at night, was like, wait, the guy looks exactly like Maximus's buddy in the movie, and his name is Juba, and this guy's name is Jubartha. Like they're spelled. How coincidental is that? So,
but Juba was supposed to be in this movie, so maybe they did. He was even cast in the movie, and then last minute had to drop out due to a scheduling conflict.
Oh my God. Okay, that makes way more sense. Why wouldn't they just change his name completely away from the Juba part? But that would have been a cool connection if it was.
Absolutely would have been.
Maximus's friend.
Because it also would have made sense. Would have made sense too why Lucius ends up with him.
Yes, like I'm going to take care of him because like that.
I know who he is,
I'm your friend. Yeah. Yes, and I should do
I was in Rome when. Yeah. Anyway, that would have made more sense, but it either way it works. Anyway, Paul Mescal kills like the lead. He freaking like bites its freaking arm, rips out a chunk of it. And then ends up
that was
choking it out.
Yeah, those
kills his craziest baboon.
Baboons were terrifying.
Yeah,
they
they're
look
terrifying.
Like zombies.
But Denzel's character Macronus is watching this whole thing, and he's like, "Bring me that one," like Paul Mescal, bring me that one. And so he's like, "You're going to be a gladiator, and you're gonna do all this for me, and yada yada yada. We're gonna train you." And he makes him fight like his lead trainer guy, and Paul Mescal beats the crap out of the dude. It's a good fight, but he ends up winning. And so he's like, "We're gonna train you. You're gonna become my gladiator and all that." And he goes in with all the other like gladiators, and they all start making monkey sounds, which is hilarious because he, bit off the. Funny. It was pretty good. It was pretty good. Meanwhile, Acacius returns home. This is where you find out he's actually married to Lucilla, right? Because I thought that was kind of a surprise because he's actually Lucius's stepdad now.
Yeah,
he hates his stepdad. Makes sense. But
who would have thought it was a stepdad story?
So Lucius tells Macronus like his goal is he wants the general's head. Like that's his goal. He he led to my wife's death. That's my goal. Acacius gets to the two emperors. We meet the two emperors, Emperor Geta and Emperor Caracalla. They're brothers. They're weirdos. Clearly
super weird.
They give a very like Commodus vibe, like Joaquin Phoenix's character. You kind of get that he's a weirdo in that movie. Like he's a creeper.
Yep.
These two are clearly creepers. But
perfectly casted for what they were.
I thought they both did a really good job. And I like Joseph Quinn. I thought he was really good.
Yep.
as Geta. But Acacius returns. They, welcome him with, he's won this, he's conquered more. He wants to return home. He wants to take time off, and they want to keep expanding the empire, and he wants the Senate. So he kind of has the same idea that Marcus Aurelius did in the first one when he was going to make Maximus emperor. We need to bring the Senate back to the people. We need to stop the corruption in Rome. We need to get rid of the Caesars and make it more for the people.
Yeah.
So he has that same idea, but obviously emperors want power, blah, 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 blah. They don't want to do that. They want him to keep conquering and take over the entire world. They even mentioned like going to India and all that stuff. It's crazy. So you kind of find out like Lucilla and Acacius have been meeting with the senators. They have a plan to get Acacius's army to Rome to take over, to stop the emperors and bring the Senate back to the people, right? Like that's their goal. That's what they want to do. Meanwhile, Macrinus is bringing his gladiators to the Colosseum. They're having this big 10 days of celebration, right? For the conquering. So they bring them home. Same thing as like in the first movie. They have these giant, epic, big scale gladiator games. And it's like, so they send all these men in. Again, like Lucius is trying to lead them and telling them how, what to do, stay together, flank, where to go. And where this rhino comes in with this rider on it. And basically Lucius almost like,
cool.
Oh, it's a badass scene. He basically like single-handedly takes down this rhino and then kills the dude.
Dude, that scene like parallels the scene in Gladiator 1. Like for me, when I think back to Gladiator 1, I think of how badass the one-on-one is when Maximus fights this like world famous gladiators, big giant dude. He's got like a freaking metal mask and there's tigers all around him. That was the coolest scene in that whole movie. This was like that, but like on another level when that gladiator like fucking walks in. He's like standing and riding, like holding his weapon up on top of the rhino. Like what a cool fucking visual and a badass fight scene. I fucking love that part of the movie.
Lucius basically, you see it in the trailer too. He like throws sand in the rhino's face, like kicks all this dust up in front of it, so it crashes into the wall, breaks its horn, like knocks the guy off. They get into this huge fight, right? Ends up killing the dude. And so he moves on. Basically, he gets to keep fighting, right?
Which I felt was a little bit different than Maximus, because Maximus is like, I'm not going to kill anybody I don't have to or don't want to, and I'll be defiant. And at that rhino scene, like we got Anakin Skywalker versus Count Dooku, the double fucking sword.
Do it.
Headline. Yeah, the headline. Do it. And then fucking scissored his head off. Fucking awesome. What a badass moment. Sorry.
Meanwhile,
I like that scene,
so Macrinus is like doing stuff behind the scenes, right? Denzel's character is very much like he's like this low-level dude who has a bunch of money and like has all these aspirations, and he finally has like a gladiator. Like I can make deals now, and he starts scheming, right?
Yeah.
So they go to this like party, right? And the emperors are there. It's like at this one senator's house, and like he's friends with Macrinus. And Macrinus is like, let's bet up all this gold, right? My guy versus your guy, one-on-one right here in front of everybody. So Lucius is like, dude, let's not kill each other for these people's entertainment. And the other guy just basically is like, I'm going to rip your head off.
Just a big hulking fucking Neanderthal.
Yeah. So anyway, Lucius ends up killing the dude because he has to, right?
And I thought, again, cool setting for a fight. It's in the middle of this like luxurious party. Everyone's in fancy robes. They're not in like battle armor, and they're just two slaves. Like it happens in the show Spartacus kind of a lot, but it was very like these people are all drunk, like with their fucking girls and trying to show off for other politicians, but they're like, yes, like make your two slaves fight while we all sit and enjoy grapes. And so they're like fighting in the middle of this like mausoleum home.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was that fight felt very like intimate.
Yes.
And it felt very high stakes.
Well, it's like in the living room.
Yes, and the dude that he was fighting was much bigger and older than him, and so it had a little bit of like, oh god, oh, I hope he survives. Obviously, he was going to, but I thought they did a good job with it.
So he bets. So Macrinus makes this money. He's like telling the senator, like, you owe me all this money, and he's like, I'm good on my bets. I'll pay you back. He's like, why don't we make a bet in the Coliseum? My guy wins tomorrow, right? And he does. And so now this guy the senator owes Denzel like all this money. Macrinus, he owes him all this money.
His whole life, essentially.
Right. Basically. So Macrinus like shows up at the senator's house and he's like, oh, this is all mine now. I own your house. Why are you still here? You need to go.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the senator obviously knows about Acacius's and Lucilla's plan, right? To bring the soldiers, take over Rome, and do all this. So Macrinus gets this information from the senator who owes him everything and basically like goes to the emperors and says like, this is what's happening. You need to stop this, right? Like that happens. And I think I'm a little out of order because I can't remember if the ship battle happens before that or after that. It's kind of in there though.
When they talk about the plot, no, the ship battle is where he wins like his second bet against the guy.
Couldn't remember if that was the ship battle or the Rhino.
Yeah, it was the second one. But like Denzel was just so good at like you could tell that like he was seizing his moment of like when he got the information that there was a plot against him. At first I was kind of like, wait, why would he go straight and give, like, he didn't even use any of that for his advantage to like hold over people. Like, I know this, do this for me, or I'm going to. He just straight up was like, oh, really? I'm going to go tell on them. But I think
he knew what he was doing.
Yes, like, he knows what he's doing because the emperors are two brothers who are very young, very naive, very not intelligent.
And crazy.
Which you find out one of is crazy because he has disease of the loins, which is basically syphilis, because if it goes untreated, it will go up to your brain and basically
make
little
spirochetes getting you drill in your brain, make you nuts.
Yes. So I think he was like, oh, this is a perfect time to fucking push the, just, like Joker says, like chaos, it just needs a little push. And that's what he was there to do.
So this big, like the next day in the next set of games, this big ship battle. They basically fill the Coliseum with water and they're like reenacting this ship battle. And there's sharks in the water, of course.
Dude,
which is
so cool.
Nuts. I'm sure this never happened, but it's cool. And
they've proven, because I think when the first movie came out, that was a big thing they talked about, that it was like proven that they used to fill the Coliseum up with water. Like they don't have, I can't remember how or what, but like that is actual thing. Not necessarily they had sharks in big ship battles, but that they were able to fill the Coliseum up with water. That is, I think, a historically accurate thing.
It's wild. Anyway, they have this big ship battle. Lucius is now like, he's leading these men, like they're all listening to him. He's getting them to work together. So they go against this other ship. They ram it. There's people falling in the water. They're getting eaten by sharks. It's wild. It's crazy. They're shooting fire arrows at the boat. The sail's on fire. It's
what a
bananas.
Cool and like original, like we haven't seen that in a movie before.
Right.
And it was fucking cool. It was super cool.
So they end up, Lucius wins again, right? Of course, they defeat the other ship. Him and his men, the ones that live, they go back. Anyway.
Time out.
Yes.
Yes, the Roman Colosseum was flooded with water to stage mock naval battles, a type of entertainment called Namakeia. How it was done, the Colosseum could have been flooded by diverting a giant aqueduct into the arena or by opening chambers filled with water. But this was actually a thing. Crazy.
It's crazy. Crazy. So maybe not the sharks, but the ship battles.
Yeah, I don't know about the shark stuff, but the sharks was fucking cool.
It was cool.
Like, it rose the stakes. Like, they were.
How would you like to be the guy in ancient Rome that they're like, you got to go catch 30 sharks?
Yeah.
He's like, what?
Like, where do they keep 30 fucking sharks back in that time where, like, their aquariums aren't a thing?
Yeah, they just have shark tanks in the basement or what?
Yeah, they just keep them in the baths.
The big old bathhouses. Like, this bathhouse is closed this week. It's full of sharks. Sorry. They had to put them somewhere.
Oh my god!
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Think of Ace Ventura 1 when they have the shark. That's so funny. Oh god!
Do not go in there. Woo!
Outstanding.
That's the guy coming out of the bathhouse. All those sharks. Anyway, so Acacius and Lucilla are captured. Lucilla, meanwhile, she has figured out that Lucius is her son. You get some of the backstory. He was as soon as Commodus was killed, it was realized he's now the heir to the empire, and he's a boy, right? Like he's a little boy. So they get him out of Rome. They put him into hiding because there will be so many people trying to kill him. Yeah. Right. So they basically fake his disappearance. He's gone. We don't know what happened to him. Fake his death or whatever. Meanwhile, he's off in Africa and he gets lost. Like, he's separated from whoever was supposed to be watching him. That's where he ends up with Jubartha. Grows up obviously in a different land. Nobody knows who he is, but he remembers who he is. But he has now accepted his new life.
Yeah. He is accepted that he is no longer that person anymore.
He has no aspirations for power, any of that stuff. But Lucilla figures out it's her son after she sees him in the arena. She approaches him. I don't know who you think I am, but I am not that person any longer. Yada, yada, yada. She explains him to his father is, because there were people that thought Commodus was his father. Like, listen, after watching the first movie, we all kind of thought that was a chance because he's a creeper.
Incest.
There's a lot. Which I think back in ancient Rome was, Oedipus did this thing, and there's a lot of weird shit. But anyway, so Acacius is captured for betraying the emperors, right? Lucilla's captured. Lucius is going to get his wish. He's going to get to fight the general in the arena. One-on-one battle, two of them, mano a mano, and he's going to get to kill the guy that basically killed his wife, right?
Yeah. I think, Pedro Pascal's Acacius, I really liked his character. He wasn't actually in it as much as I thought he was going to be, or he wasn't as like a crucial character in it as I thought he would be. I really thought that like him and Paul Mescal would, like him and Lucius were going to like team up at some point and maybe do some gladiator battling together. Which, spoiler, was not what happened. But I liked Acacius actually was more. It's like Lucius obviously is following in his father's footsteps on the gladiator side and essentially goes down the same path, rises up, becomes the leader of these people. And obviously gets Rome and the fans behind him. But Acacius's character reminded me more of Maximus when like he just finished conquering the barbarians. He doesn't want to go to war. He wants to have a respite. Yep. He wants to go spend time with his family. And that's kind of what Acacius is like when they get back.
When they show Lucius, like when they do the flashback of Lucius like getting taken out of the city when he's young after Commodus dies and Maximus dies, they show like a young Acacius like as the one that gets him out of the city. And I think that's an important point to make, that he knew Maximus, right? Like Acacius worked under Maximus. Like that was his general. they are very similar, and they've good men, they're good beliefs. Even though he wasn't a main character in the original Gladiator, I think he was there.
Oh,
Obviously, we just
Jesus.
didn't see him,
I think
right?
your mic just like exploded my ear right there. I don't know what just
Sorry.
happened, but it gave me a
I don't
heart
know.
attack. Sorry.
Sorry about it. So I think that's important to establish that Acacius's character worked under Maximus, learned from Maximus, and that's what made him kind of the man he is today, I thought.
Yeah. And he does say a line to Lucius. I know I'm kind of jumping to the end. What I was going to say is, one, when Acacius gets in the arena, they basically make him fight like 5 or 6 dudes that are way bigger than him. And they basically, it was like a moment for them to show you, like, actually, this dude is a badass. Like, he's the leader for a reason. And he fucking just wrecked like these 6 dudes.
Yeah.
Then he has an epic battle with Lucius. But there's a line that he says in terms of kind of the Maximus thing that I think it was a very small line, but it basically it illuminated a lot of backstory and told you, like, this is why he is how he is. Because, like you said, he tells Lucius, like, I know who you are. I would have died for your mom, and I would die for Maximus. So, like, basically that tells you, like, okay, he was one of Maximus's soldiers, or maybe even a lieutenant or something, and so that's why he follows in that kind of path, like you said. So I loved that moment, that line. Like, I think that says that, like, went a really long way for me in the movie. That was one of my favorite parts, actually. So
yeah, it says so much about who he is as a character. And right when Lucius basically defeats him, the Emperor's basically like telling Lucius, like, time to kill him. And Lucius decides he's not gonna. Like, I'm not gonna kill this man. Like, and he even talks to the crowd. He's like, why would we kill this hero of Rome and all this? And then the Emperors basically tell the archers, they just fill him full of arrows, right? Yeah. And just Acacius is just slaughtered there by all these. So the crowd has now started to turn, right? Now they're pissed because Lucius has got the crowd all riled up. Like, why would we kill this hero of Rome for the people? He wants the people to be, to succeed and be happy and all this. And then the emperors just slaughter him in front of everybody after he's been spared. So
and
now
Denzel's character is like slowly kind of pushing them in these directions to make these decisions that, to them, they're thinking like, okay, I should do this because this is like what an emperor would do. When Denzel's like, you're going to fucking turn all of them on you. And once they turn on you, I can fucking take you out.
So yeah, we kind of get to like that night, and this is where everything kind of happens. It's the night before basically the ending. But Rome has turned against its emperors. Macrinus is in the ear of both of the emperors, right? And he has now told them to go their separate ways to calm down because they're both, at each other, right?
Yep.
He turns Caracalla against Geta. He's like, Caracalla's crazy, right? Like, he's the one with syphilis or whatever. He's crazy. He's got this pet monkey.
Pet monkey.
Yes. He's got this pet monkey, and Macrinus is basically like, your brother wants to kill your monkey, and he wants to harm him, and he wants to, stop you and all these things. So you need to stop him first. And so basically, like, Caracalla goes and stabs his brother in the neck, and Macrinus literally, like, takes his hand and cuts his head off. Like literally reaches around him and does it himself, like holds the other emperor's hand. So like he's doing it, but Macrinus is the one that's actually in charge of what's happening, right?
Yeah. I thought maybe I saw it differently, but I thought that it seemed like the brother was going to, but then I thought that Denzel literally was the one that did it, just like kind of took the lead.
Yeah.
But I didn't remember it that the brother actually was one that did it. It was like they were getting into it, and then Denzel was like, fucking,
no, Caracalla did it first, and then Denzel's the one that like finished the job.
Yeah, straight up
Like
lop that
basically,
thing
yeah,
off.
chopped his head off. Meanwhile, in the Colosseum where the slaves are, Lucius's mother has approached him again. She gave him the ring of his father, which was Marcus Aurelius' grandfather's ring, which was also Acacius's ring. And she'd given it to him. He was shown, he has like this friend who's a former gladiator who's actually like the doctor. He's the one that like heals, like helps them stitch up their wounds and stuff like that. And he's a former gladiator. And he's kind of befriended him, and he showed him actually where Maximus is buried, because Maximus's name has been scratched off the Colosseum wall because of who he was, right? He was like, they had his name removed from history, but they buried him underneath the Colosseum. He's got this big grave. It's got his chest plate. It's got his sword. Here lies Maximus, right?
And it has his saying of like, what we do in life echoes in eternity. This is what's above. I was like, you're pandering to the right audience with me for anything Maximus related. So like when the shrine was there with his armor, I'm like, fuck yeah, like they should fucking revere him like that, damn it.
Yeah.
So I thought 100%. That was cool.
Absolutely. So Lucius gives his friend the ring, and he's like, listen, he's like, there's all these 5,000 troops. They're here. You have to ride now, and you have to ride fast. You have to lead them back to Rome. Tell them this is Acacius's ring. This is Maximus's ring. I'm giving this to you. I am Lucas Aurelius, the Prince of Rome, and I need you to ride and bring these men to Rome now. Because he knows now that Macrinus is instrumenting this whole thing. Like he's in charge. Macrinus is taking over. And he goes, and by the way, I need you to leave me your keys. So he leaves him his keys to all the cells, right? So you don't know what he does with that, but you know something's going on. Meanwhile, the senators all meet. Caracalla is now the lone emperor. Macrinus is there. He sends Caracalla on his way. Caracalla has basically made the monkey number 1 in charge and Macrinus number 2 in charge.
Which is
because he's crazy. Which is now proven, and he did it in front of the Senate, so the Senate knows he's crazy. Yep. So even Denzel like pulls like get his head out of a bag, and he's like moving it around, looking at people with it, which is just nuts.
That's creepy and weird.
But he's telling them he has the power over all the armies. He has the power to call all the shots. The only thing standing in his way from absolute power is Caracalla and a monkey. And so what they're going to do is they're going to put Lucilla on a pike, on a wagon in the middle of the arena, surrounded by soldiers, and Lucius is going to have to try and save her by himself. Oh, and his man comes and gets Lucius out and gives him a wooden sword. Oh, you just get a wooden sword for this because he has to fail, right?
Yeah, and it was almost like because the wooden sword for a gladiator is what you get when you are freed. Like when you've won enough battles to where you are going to be freed, like the wooden sword is what you're given. So it's almost kind of like now you're free, you're going to go die. Or is
you get to go die now. But then everybody gets out of their cells because Lucius had like unlocked them all. They kill the dude. They get free. They all armor up. He gives this huge speech. He's going to lead them into battle.
Wearing his dad's armor.
Plate. Yeah.
Awesome.
Wearing his dad's plate with his dad's sword. And they go out there and they fight all the royal guard. And he's trying to free his mom, right? And there's Macrinus with a freaking arrow and shoots it right at Lucius's back. And he steps just to the side and it hits Lucilla right in the chest and kills her, right? And so Lucius is like, you're going down, brother. Macrinus runs out, gets on a horse, rides out of the city, calls all the royal guard to follow him. We're going to battle, right? We're in charge now. And
right before he takes off, I think right before he shoots her with an arrow, he fucking stabs because the arena goes into chaos. Like, right. So the gladiators go, it was supposed to be Lucius basically defending against like 100 honor guard. But then as he's coming out, all these gladiators come out, and so it's a big war between the honor guard and these gladiators.
Yeah.
And there's also guards in the crowd that were archers who obviously shot Acacius earlier. That they like the crowd is starting to go into pandemonium. Things are already like on the brink, and we're already kind of pushed over the edge the night before. So it's kind of interesting that they even did this.
Yep.
But the crowd gets rambunctious, and like the guards start like shooting random like crowd members.
Yep.
And everything is in chaos. And so the crazy older brother, who's the littler emperor who's still alive, like in the chaos, fucking Denzel goes up behind him and literally like fucking sticks him through the ear with
the needle,
like with a fucking like letter opener. Like it was fucking gruesome, but he fucking kills him.
He scrambles his brain.
Yes, and he arrows the mom, and then is like, "All right, I'm out of here." And then he runs out to try. He
runs out, gets on a horse. Lucius gets a horse, chasing him, gets out of the city, right? And they stop at like this archway on this like where this like stream is. Royal Guard is coming from one side. Here comes Acacius's men from the other, and basically, like Lucius and Macrinus are like, "Let's have it out. You know, we're gonna decide this." They have a really good sword fight, just like you would expect. It really doesn't last that long because Lucius is gonna whoop Macrinus's ass, and he does
for sure.
You know, he gets knocked into the stream, and there's a minute there where he has his, like afterlife vision because he's like drowning. And he ends up, he lops Macrinus's hand off, and then he just freaking stabs him, guts him.
Loved the hand lop off thing, and Denzel just like slowly falling into the water. Yeah, like that was awesome. That was the one part of the movie that I was like, what? When Denzel's fucking like old man, not Gladiator. It's like you said, it should have been a 2-second. Lucius doesn't like, there's no chance that Denzel wins this. Somehow like gets the upper hand on him and then stabs him like 40 times, but because he had Maximus's plate armor, it didn't do anything. But it was like, what? How did Denzel get how did he get one over on Maximus?
It's because he tripped and landed in the water. That was the only.
Anyway,
Lucius gets out, gives this epic speech. Royal Guard. Nobody wants to fight any longer. Rome is for the people. The end. Happily ever after. Of course not, but something, whatever. It's a good ending. It's a great ending. It's the ending that it should have been. Ties everything up with a nice bow.
Gives like a massive epic speech to both armies that basically is like, let's all unite and stop this bullshit.
Right.
And as the Prince of Rome, which he kind of referenced to himself as a couple of times.
Yep.
And you're like, yeah, let's fucking go.
Yeah.
We walked out happy as clams.
Yeah. Now there is talks that Ridley Scott says he might make a third one and carry on this story about what happens next. And I think that would be cool. I think that would work because as much as this is a sequel, it's Gladiator II. It's more of it's start of a new story, right?
Yeah.
It's about legacy. It's the next story. But now what happens is Rome finally going to go back to the people. That's what we wanted to happen at the end of the first one. It didn't happen. Now that Lucius is in, is it? Can you call it Gladiator? Will there be people fighting in an arena?
Yeah. What would it be called? Would you think Lucius would continue having gladiator battles as the leader of Rome?
He's probably tired. He's probably done with those. But anyway, listen, I loved this movie. I thought it was great. I thought it was a perfect sequel to the original. Is it as good as the original? No, but it's close. It's closer than I think most people think it is. Like a lot of people you have heard. I mean, I'm good going out there and saying like the original is probably a 9.5, and I'm going to give this a 9. I loved this movie, and I'm ready to see it again.
I think Gladiator 1 is a 10 movie of all time, and this was a 9.5. It was so good. There's something about it, like you said, it didn't quite feel as up there as Gladiator 1. But it fucking still gave you the same feelings and vibes. And I loved it. it scratched all the itches that I had for this Gladiator kind of movie. The Gladiator battles were sick. The story about Maximus' son is fucking cool. 9.5. Go see it. This
It's
movie
epic. It's
rocks.
awesome.
I can't wait to watch it again, actually. So.
Same. All right, we're running long, so let's get into it. Let's go to my favorite segment. There can be only 5. Only 5. We're going on brand like normal, like we try to do, but also, kind of out there at the same time. Yeah. So we went this time with top 5 historical fiction movies. Now, when I was looking up historical fiction movies, I think a lot of things don't understand what historical fiction is. So, like you and I text about this, like historical fiction is a fictional story told in a historical time, like something that really happened. And like a couple of the examples that I used was like Titanic. That really happened. Jack and Rose weren't real people, right? Yeah. So that's historical fiction. Inglourious Bastards takes place during World War II, but obviously it has a totally different outcome than what actually happened during World War II because Hitler gets killed in that movie. Totally different, but it's historical fiction. So that's where we're at. Kyle, why don't you go first this week? What do you got?
As you say that, I'm like, oh, God, I forgot. Like, I'm pretty sure mine fall into that realm, or at least I felt like they do. So if mine aren't, then if mine are too real, then it's fine. This is what I went with. So movies that I love. When I told my wife that we were doing this list, she was like, so like dude movies then? Because all my answers were very fucking guy movies. So they don't have to be, but mine were. So
okay.
And then I realized that my favorite movies of all time are essentially these types of movies. So
I bet we have similar lists. I think we do.
I will say, and now that your explanation of a historical fiction makes me think like, oh, maybe Braveheart wasn't historical fiction but I would have had that on my top 5 list, but I've talked about it, and I think I had it as my number 1 or number 2 all-time movies. So I'm going to put it as my honorable mention. It's not on my list, but I do love that movie. I like to talk about movies that we haven't talked about a lot. Number 5, for me, historical fiction. It's about John Dillinger, Public Enemy number 1. The movie's called Public Enemies, and it's Johnny Depp. He plays John Dillinger. He's like this suave gangster back in like early America, Tommy gun type stuff, bank robber. Fucking awesome. There's a ton of random characters or real life characters in it, but they kind of go their own way with how it goes down. So I don't know if you would consider that historical fiction, but
that's exactly what it is, because it's telling a story with real people that really took place, but the story's all bullshit.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, cool. Here we go. Number 4, which kind of hard for me to not have this higher, but it's a movie that I love. It's my favorite boxing movie of all time. Number 4, Cinderella Man. This is a Russell Crowe movie with James J. Braddock, who basically is a shitty boxer who retires at the beginning of the Great Depression because he's not good, but somehow ass backwards falls back into boxing to try to make a little bit of money for his poor family, or he's losing his kids. Everything's on the line. And by some miracle, he freaking becomes a world champion against a killer of a heavyweight that he should never have beat. It's such a good movie. The score is incredible. Russell Crowe is legendary. So, and Paul Giamatti's in it too. Love him and Crowe together. Number 4, Cinderella Man. Number 3, this movie's probably higher on your list. I know it should be on everyone's top 5 list, but this is like one of the ultimate dude movies of all dude movies. Saving Private Ryan. This is a World War II epic movie.
That opening scene.
Steven Spielberg has one of the greatest, if not the greatest, opening scene of a movie of all time. When they storm the beach of Normandy. So when this movie came out, it was like groundbreaking. It was like ensuing PTSD on former veterans. Like it was, this was a movie that was talked about. It's so good. I say I'd probably watch it at least once a year. During like Veterans Day or Veterans Week or something. It somehow ends up on my TV, and I always fucking watch it because it's badass. Tom Hanks is the lead in that. There's a ton of famous actors in that movie, even before they were famous.
It was like one of Vin Diesel's first movies.
Yeah, Vin Diesel's in it. There's a ton of like young, now big time famous actors that in that movie were just random nobodies. So, Saving Private Ryan is my number 3, which I had it higher earlier, but I moved some things around. Number 2, I don't know what it is about this movie, but I fucking love it. I fucking love it. The Last Samurai. This movie with Tom Hanks as Tom Cruise. I'm sorry, I was just talking Tom Hanks.
I know. I know.
The wrong Tom on the brain.
I've done that too. It's all right.
Tom Cruise as the Last Samurai. God, could you imagine that movie if Tom Hanks was him?
No, not at all.
Tom Cruise plays Nathan Algren, who is just this badass. Well, he's like a drunken, like not Civil War vet. What's the time frame or what wars?
Oh, I don't remember when that takes place.
He was a part of like the Battle of Little Bighorn and a bunch of like just massacres of Indians and stuff, and somehow ends up over in Japan to help. They bring him in to be an advisor for Japan as they are westernizing themselves.
Yeah, no, it would have been like Civil War, because this takes place like late 1800s.
So he basically is this drunken alcoholic that gets brought over to Japan to train the emperor's new Western army. Basically, they have now added rifles and cannons, and he's teaching them how to use that while putting down an insurrection of the old guard of samurai that have gone rogue. That basically, from their standpoint, they are defending the emperor's like Japanese honor of the code of the samurai, but they're this fucking badass samurai group out in the middle of the forest that are hiding out, and they get decimated in their first battle by the samurai. He gets captured because he actually does well and kills a couple of them, and then as he's held prisoner over winter when they're snowed in out so they can't be reached for 6 months, he then like goes from being a prisoner to learning their ways and basically like taking on the code of the samurai. When the first trailer came out, I'm like, this is so dumb. Of course, the Last Samurai is a white guy.
Exactly.
Like how Tom Cruise, this is so Tom Cruise. But it's actually a real story. It's actually a Frenchman that this happened with, but it's so cool. Tom Cruise fucking crushes it.
Oh, Ken Watanabe is amazing in that movie.
Watanabe as Yamamoto is just so the leader of the samurai. It's so epic. It's heart-wrenching. It evokes emotion. It's my number 2, which I wanted to have it at 1 at some point or a couple of times, but I just couldn't. Recency bias. I just watched this movie. I just watched its sequel. My number 1 historical fiction, Gladiator 1 with Russell Crowe. I couldn't not put it number 1. Call it recency bias. But this movie, like I said earlier, to me, this is a 10 out of 10 movie. It's on my all-time greatest movies of all time. It is like a dude's dude movie that it lights a fire in men everywhere, I would say, to like go and fucking be badasses. So Gladiator 1 is my number 1 historical fiction. What do you got? Rain upon me.
This will go fast. I have 2 honorable mentions. I have 2 honorable mentions that I wanted to say, just to give them like shout outs. First one being Gladiator II. I mean, it's close to being on the list. Like, I loved it. It was great. Maybe over time it would make the list. And then the other one I
Okay.
just had an honorable mention. I had The Patriot with Mel Gibson.
Oh,
Like, I
yes.
love The Patriot
Love
so
it.
much.
It's such a cool movie.
Heath Ledger, Jason Isaacs is like phenomenal as the bad guy. I love it so much. And it's almost like a spiritual sequel to Braveheart, like, because it's got the same vibe, but it's told an American story. I love it.
Yeah.
I love The freaking Patriot. So at number 5,
Nice.
I had The Last Samurai.
Oh, let's go.
All the things Kyle said. Again, I had this at different places on my list as well. It never got above 3, but it is, just like Kyle said, it's an epic movie. I think it's underrated. It's fantastic. And Watanabe in that movie for me is like, give him all the awards. The dude's amazing.
Yeah. Nice.
At number 4, I had Braveheart at number 4.
Yeah,
Again, these all movies all do have a very similar vibe. Braveheart's obviously a story that's told about somebody, and it's bullshit, but it is a lot of things that are happened in this, but a lot of it is just made up to make a good movie. And they made a great movie.
So
and
good.
It's awesome. And the battle scenes are great. And there's so many good things about it. And like, Braveheart's epic. And it's just one of those movies. And again, I know why you left it off your list, because you've talked about it so much. I got to mention it. So I had Braveheart at number 4.
But it would have been on my list if I wanted to talk about Public Enemies.
Exactly.
I just wanted to talk about it.
So the only movie that Kyle hasn't already mentioned that's on my list, basically, number 3, I had Pan's Labyrinth.
Oh,
Pan's Labyrinth is a Guillermo del Toro movie that's told, like, I think it's during the Spanish Civil War. It's a Spanish language film. If you've never seen it, you need to see this movie. It's amazing. It's a mix of like real world atrocity and like fantasy, because it's based around this little girl, and there's like the faun, Pan, and like there's these different creatures in this other world, and it mixes 2 genres so well. It's a great movie. It's tremendous. If you've never seen it, highly, highly recommend. And then at number 2, I had Gladiator. I had Gladiator at number 2. All the things that you said, all the things that we've talked about already about Gladiator. It's a man's movie, and it's just a great epic saga.
Look at us.
And at number 1, I had Saving Private Ryan, which is probably the movie you thought I was going to have at number 1, because I heard you mention that I would have it higher. Saving Private Ryan, to me, is the best historical fiction movie that's ever been made. It tells a story during World War II. It's very loosely based on things that actually happened, but it is epic. It is grand. It is traumatizing, and it is gut-wrenching. And it's one hell of a movie, and it should have won Best Picture that year. Fuck Shakespeare in Love. Saving Private Ryan is an epic movie. No, that was
Saving Private Ryan.
That was back when the Weinsteins were making under the table deals to get awards to movies that didn't deserve it. It was bullshit. Anyway, Saving Private Ryan's my number 1.
Saving Private Ryan's like a perfect movie. It's like perfect. So,
it is. It's
nice.
probably the best World War II movie ever. And there's so many great ones, but it's probably the best one.
It spawned the best World War II TV show that we ever got with Band of Brothers.
Yeah, led right into that. You're right. Spielberg, Tom Hanks, like just knocked it out of the park with that one. So
yeah.
All right. We got through that fast, so that was good. Back for another edition of How Rotten Is Your Tomato? It's my turn to try and see if I can stump Kyle. I've got 5 pairs of movies. They're all kind of themed, so I am ready to give them to you. Let's see what you've got. So we're going to start. Are you ready for this? With some epics. We've got 2000's Gladiator versus 1995's Braveheart.
Oh, nice. That is a good... Oh, man.
And you will be disappointed in how low these scores are.
Oh, fuck you, freaking critics. I'm gonna say Braveheart's higher. That's hard. I love both those movies. Okay, and just because you said they're lowerly rated, they can't be below an 85. So I'm going to say Braveheart is an 85 and Gladiator's an 84.
Gladiator's higher at an 80. Braveheart's a 76.
Yeah.
I know. Trauma.
It's a bunch of Scottish critics who were like, this isn't historically accurate.
I know.
They just didn't like it.
It's a great movie. And those both won Best Picture, too. So, I mean, like...
It's fucking 76 won Best Picture. That's
critic. I know, right?
What the hell?
All right, here we go. So we talked about how Patriot is kind of a spiritual sequel to Braveheart, right?
Fucking love it.
So 2000's The Patriot versus 2024's Gladiator II.
Oh, that's a good... Damn. You'd think, I would say like recency bias, but like The Patriot is like it is like Braveheart to me, and that we watched that movie a lot growing up. My brothers and I used to run around being the ghost from that movie, Patriot. So in our militia. So I'm going to say The Patriot's higher. And I'm going to say The Patriot was at a Braveheart's a 76. I'm going to say The Patriot's a 75 and Gladiator 2's a 73. I don't think
Gladiator
that's what it should be.
Gladiator 2's higher.
All right. I'll take that.
72. You were close.
Oh, I was
You're off by one.
Oh my God. 72.
The Patriot was a 62.
Oh, I think that was the point where Mel Gibson was starting to get a little off his rocker and people were really starting to hate him. So
he was losing his shine.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
Okay,
here we go.
That.
So
these are good pairs.
Yeah. So the next one I had was, this one was historical fiction. I almost had it as an honorable mention on my list because it's very fiction, but it is technically historical fiction. I had 2007's 300.
Oh, you bastard!
Which is based on a comic written by,
which is based on history,
right? Historical fiction, who was written by Frank Miller.
Mr. Frank Miller, and
right?
Who did the movie?
Zack Snyder.
So
we've got 300, 2007's 300 versus 2005's Sin City.
I knew you were going to do that. I knew you were going to do the Frank Miller, fucking Snyder. Man, I love both of those movies a lot. I love both those movies. I love all of these movies. These are all dude movies.
Yeah.
I'm into them. I like 300 much better. I love Sin City, but 300 was like, there was just something about that movie that like I was the like target audience. Hit me right in fucking like the heart when that came out. 300 is higher, and 300 should be an 87. Should be higher, but I doubt that they'll give it that. 87, and I'll give Sin City 78.
Sin City's higher.
Damn it.
At a 76.
Oh, it's close.
You were close. 300 to 61.
A 61? It's because at the time, comic book movies were not loved. And they're like, oh, people are just going to see this because it's jacked Gerard Butler. But man, that movie is so good.
Agreed.
62?
Now, I do like
Sin
City better, but I think they're close.
Yeah. Man, I know technically 60 is that's still certified fresh, right?
Right. Yep. Correct.
So, but still, okay.
All right. I didn't realize these two movies came out in the same year until I pulled this list. 300, Rise of an Empire from 2014. And Sin City, A Dame to Kill For from 2014. I didn't realize that.
Dude, Sin City 2 is wild because they recasted freaking the dude, was it Clive Owen's character? Yeah. They recasted as Thanos, right?
Yeah, it's Josh Brolin, yeah.
I thought that was such a weird thing to do.
Yes. And they
yeah.
like explain he had like surgery or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they retconned it in, but it was so random.
Yep.
And actually that movie had the same actress. That in both she was like the femme fatale and
'cause
like
she
the
was
bad guy queen.
Ava Green, right?
Yeah, that was like her year of villainy. Which I think she's great, personally. Man, shoot. I don't really think. Obviously, they are nowhere near the level of their predecessors.
No.
I will say 302 is higher. Maybe Sin City 2 is higher because it has Josh Hartnett in it for a second. But I'll say 300, The Rise of a Blood Empire, whatever it is higher at a 43. And Sin City 2 is a 35.
You were right. 300 Rise of an Empire is higher at 45.
What did I say?
So 43. You said 43.
Oh, shit. I was right there.
You're so close. And Sin City, A Dame to Kill For was a 43, which is what you said 300 was.
Oh, shit.
They were close.
Okay, so they were pretty close. Nice.
That was good. Okay, I've got one more. And of course, I've got to throw in 2 shitbag movies.
I thought the ones we just talked about were 2 shitbag movies.
Those. See, I built you up, and now I'm breaking you down slowly. Okay, so my last 2 grouping, the Michael Bay directed historical fiction, 2001's Pearl Harbor.
Oh, man.
Versus Oliver Stone's 2004 epic Alexander.
Oh,
with Colin Farrell as Alexander the Great.
Talk about 2 super disappointing movies in terms of what we thought we were getting.
Oh my God.
I thought Pearl Harbor was going to be this epic freaking plane dogfight battle.
No, shit.
And it was just a love triangle bullshit. But I will say I watched Pearl Harbor a lot more. I've actually seen that movie probably at least 20 plus times.
Oh my gosh.
More than I should. As a kid, like there was just a movie that played in our house. I think it was a two cassette.
Oh yeah, because it's over 3 hours. I think it's over 3 hours long.
Yeah. I'll say I liked it because I like Ben Affleck. I like Ben Affleck a lot. So I'm gonna say Pearl Harbor was higher. Alexander was hella boring. And I fucking love me some Mr. Penguin, but that movie was just so boring. It was just like the last Napoleon that just came out, which I think I compared to. I hope this is more like a certain movie and less like Alexander, and it was exactly like Alexander. Okay, Pearl Harbor higher at a 40. Alexander. No, I would bet critics have Alexander higher. Alexander's higher at a 45, and Pearl Harbor's lower at a 40, though I like Pearl Harbor more.
Oh, my. Pearl Harbor's higher at 24.
Oh, my God.
Alexander was a 15.
Damn. That movie 15. Was hated.
Yeah, it's bad. God. It's a bad movie. I think I don't even know if I finished it. I might like turned it off.
It's so boring and so lame. How do you take the greatest conqueror of all time and make a boring ass movie?
It's kind of a bitch too.
Yeah, he's fucking lame. So
yeah, it's
nothing against freaking Bullseye, but
no, well,
still.
Bullseye, no. Colin Farrell. Yeah. Anyway.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, long episode. When we started talking about the plot to Gladiator II, I was like, holy shit, I forgot. Like, there's a lot happens in that movie. Yeah, there's so many moving parts going on with all the different characters and what's going on behind. There's a lot. That is a lot to talk about. So, Gladiator II, if you haven't seen it yet, go see it. It's freaking masterpiece.
Go see it now.
That takes us to the end of episode 67 of the Movie Dads podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, please click that like and subscribe. Make sure you click the bell so you know notifications when new episodes come out, which is on Wednesdays. If you're not watching us on YouTube, you can find us on many podcast networks such as Spotify, Apple, Audible, iHeartRadio, among many others. You can also find some of our short clips on videos on social media at MovieDadsPod, on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Kyle, it's going to be December here in a few days. We're starting our Christmas season. Christmas movies from here on out through the holiday. That's not true. We are going to see Craven. But otherwise, Christmas movies for the month of December. We're starting next week with my favorite Christmas movie that you need to see this movie. The 80s action classic epic Nakatomi Plaza special.
Nice. Oh, you should have saved that.
Oh no, nice. I got a new one. I'm wearing. I got a new one. I got a new one. I'm wearing next week.
Nice.
It's even
That's
better.
Awesome.
It's even better.
I have my Batman Returns poster. I have a Christmas version of it that has like the big Christmas tree. I'm going to switch them out. So
epic. Love it.
Which my son confirmed. I asked, would you consider this a Christmas movie while we're watching? He said, yeah, there's freaking Christmas tree and there's Santa's in it, of course. So they say Merry Christmas in it.
It goes back to the age-old argument. Is it a Christmas movie or is it a movie that takes place at Christmas? And does a movie taking place at Christmas automatically make it a Christmas movie, or does Christmas have to drive the story?
Great. This is an argument that we'll have.
We've had this argument. We had it a year ago. We've had this argument. I know.
So I'll let you have Die Hard. You let me have Batman Returns.
It's fine. You can have Batman Returns. Again, the discussion about Harry Potter, it's like, does 5 minutes of a 2.5 hour movie make it a Christmas movie?
Yeah. Of all of the movies, I consider
you said Harry Potter
as a
but I will say this
fucking thing.
The one thing about Harry Potter is like, but most of those movies came out right before Christmas. Like they all came out like Thanksgiving weekend. Like the first one and the second one, and like the fourth one did, and the sixth one did, and like part one of the seventh one, like they all came out at the holidays. So you always kind of have that association with Harry Potter and Christmas anyway.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Like that's how I always associated it with.
Yeah, but midnight release watches the actual midnight release
when you had to go at freaking midnight. Yeah,
Christmas time Harry Potter.
I kind of missed that. I liked going to movies at midnight because it was so cool. But I do like being able to go to them at 8 o'clock at night. It's
the 10 p.m. Gladiator 3-hour movie felt like the midnight release. Like my wife fell asleep towards the end, so
yeah, I saw Batman Begins, Dark Knight, and then Dark Knight Rises started at midnight. It was all 3 in a row.
Oh my god!
That was wild. Well, the theater smelled by the time you got to the end. Well, you think about what half the people in the theater are like, right? Because every seat's full. Right? You're in a big old IMAX theater, and it's mostly
farting up a storm.
It's 20-year-old comic book nerds, and most of them are the same people we run into at cons. That
I was like, it probably smelled like a Comic-Con.
It did. It smelled just like a Comic-Con. Anyway.
Oh my god.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye.